Hey there, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us here on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. I am Maya Engel, live in our digital studio. We're going to check in with Chief Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix. He just wrapped up the 6 p.m. show, so I know, Joe, you probably want to catch your breath for a second. But today it was a pretty windy day. I'm just curious, is the wind going to kind of start to calm down tonight, or is it going to stick around a little longer?
Yeah, it was a windy one today, rotating around low pressure north of Lake Superior tonight, Maya, but the wind is going to come down tonight.
Okay, so tomorrow it shouldn't be as big of an issue.
No, not later tonight. Now, tomorrow, it is still going to be breezy tomorrow. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be still, but it won't be as much as what we had out there today.
Okay.
With regard to the wind.
Sure. And Joe, we'll check in with you again in a couple of minutes for a full forecast of what to expect the rest of the week and also Memorial Day weekend. So we'll see you in a few minutes. But we are going to start off with our question of the day, which is, should local government use taxpayer money to pay for outside consultants to help fill staff positions? Right now, 15% say yes, 85% say no. It looks like we have about 123 people who have voted so far. We want to hear what you think about this. So be sure to scan the QR code on your screen now to vote in our question of the day and leave a comment in the comments below, and we will read some of those. I'm just looking at a couple of the comments on our Facebook post, and I'll read a few of those. So Cindy says, no, that is not why we pay taxes for them to use to hire more people. Bridget says, nope, these consultants are usually relatives, friends with sitting officials, and push their friends, families, even friends of friends to get into good government positions. Thomas says, absolutely not. Andrea has a good question. She says, why aren't the local HR departments handling the hiring? Or were they cut and now you have to spend more on consultants? That's a very good question. So our Allie Baxter has been working on this story. We're going to check in with her in a few minutes. So I think maybe we'll ask Allie that question. She's talked with a lot of different local government people today, so she might have an answer to that. Greg says, if they paid more, they would attract and retain more employees, but instead of paying more, let's use that money to hire a consultant. Yep, sounds very government. And those are the majority of our comments on our Facebook post. So again, we want to know what you think about this question. Should local government use taxpayer money to pay for outside consultants to help fill staff positions? And if you're wondering where this came from, I will give you a little bit of background. I'm going to full screen our question of the day so you can scan the QR code to vote on it. But just so you know, in the past year, there's been a lot of turnover in local government. So for example, Traverse City recently hired a new city manager, and Garfield Township is currently looking for a new supervisor. Interestingly, both are using the same HR recruiting firm for their hiring process, and this has become a common practice among local leaders, although it is worth noting that, yes, taxpayers are footing the bill for these consultants. Our Allie Baxter has the story.
By that payment when the internal candidate, it was someone here all along.
I think so.
Chuck Korn is the Garfield Township supervisor, and he's leaving the job in November. With his upcoming departure, the township's board of trustees took the opportunity to rework the supervisor role. Now they need to find someone who's a perfect fit for the job.
This is the most important decision that you might be making.
That's Amy Sell. She's the owner of Amy Sell Talent, an HR recruiting firm. Her team led the hiring search for Traverse City's city manager and Grand Traverse Metro fire chief.
You can do it on your own. I've seen some communities do that, but it can be very difficult.
Chuck agrees, and he believes paying for a consultant makes sense.
It's not just a question of, are the local people good, but it's a question of, how do they compare against somebody who has that background already?
To bring in what they call quality candidates, the Garfield Township Board of Trustees is paying Amy Sell Talent more than $18,000.
It's $1,000 to $2,000 of direct costs. Then there could also be, cost for other materials or travel. And then it's really about the hours that are worked on by the consulting team.
This is the cost breakdown from Amy Sell Talent sent to Garfield Township trustees. They agreed to pay for the full package, including search components that could be added on, like $500 for a press release announcing the final candidates.
How do you justify that payment?
I justify it because I think if you have the right person in place, then projects tend to be at budget, on time. Having somebody who knows the ropes will save you money.
All right, I'm going to bring in Allie now from our newsroom. And Allie, this is a very interesting topic. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback on your end. Let me see if I can edit your mic settings. Let's do echo cancellation, reduce mic background noise. Cross our fingers. I think it sounds better. Okay. Anyway, so Allie,
Does it sound good, Maya?
You sound good. Yes. This is a very interesting topic. And this is something that, our question of the day is, should local government use taxpayer money to pay for outside consultants to help fill staff positions? But I feel like the big issue isn't necessarily like, should we use taxpayer money, because where else would they get that money? It's the fact that a lot of these local governments, they are paying a lot of money. You mentioned $18,000. And then a lot of the times the government ends up hiring someone internally.
Right. And we saw that actually within the past year with originally during the hiring process for the Traverse City city manager position, we saw the internal candidate get chosen. Ultimately, we know that that person stepped down and said that they actually didn't want the role anymore. And that's why we have our city manager now. But originally, it was the internal candidate that was chosen. And that was also the same HR recruiting firm used in that instance as well. And the city used the same full package. So that was about $18,000 to choose originally the internal candidate. And something that was explained to me today, because I did pose that question, as you heard in the story, for someone who was here all along, why are we paying this much money? And as it was explained to me, and this was an answer that Chuck Horn had given me, is that you kind of want to see if your internal people are on par with other people across the country, that they can bring in the talent, the fresh perspectives. And at the end of the day, if the internal candidate still is chosen, then that's a great thing. You can say that, hey, we have the people here who are these amazing, capable leaders.
But it does seem like local governments could figure that out without spending $18,000 for this hiring firm.
Right. And I feel like that is a concern, especially from taxpayers, because, $18,000, that's a lot of money. And it is very much still justified with everyone I spoke to today. So I talked to Chuck Horn. I also talked to Amy Sell herself about the benefits of using a consulting and HR recruiting firm. And I also talked off camera with Amy Shamrow. She's Traverse City's mayor. And we spoke about, why that is. And at the end of the day, it kind of, it just helps streamline the process. It's a lot to go out there and find somebody and hire somebody, but they say kind of that, the ends justify the cost of being able to, have somebody have a candidate that they can depend on, that they can rely on as well.
So I'm not sure if you heard this, but someone left a comment on our Facebook post with this question, and they said, why aren't the local HR departments handling the hiring? Or were they cut and now you have to spend more on consultants? So I think that's a pretty valid question. Why isn't the HR department handling this?
Right. And that's something I actually specifically talked about with Traverse City's mayor, because Traverse City is a little bit of a bigger municipality. We have an HR department. We have a communications manager as well. So that was a question that I posed to Mayor Shamrow is, well, if there are these certain things that the HR recruiting firm is doing that our own departments could be doing, why are we still hiring somebody else? And part of the reasoning is that, hey, in our day-to-day jobs, we're already handling a lot already, and that it could also potentially be an awkward situation for this HR department to be hiring their boss at the end of the day, so that it was better for them to still go ahead and get somebody else. And I think something specifically we pointed out in the story is that, hey, it was a pretty high cost just for a press release to announce who the finalists are. Why can't, our communications manager do that? And how it was explained to me is that, hey, like if the HR recruiting firm is already handling all these other things, it makes sense to stay streamlined and have them handle that as well.
That makes a lot of sense. And like you mentioned, Traverse City is a big municipality. There's a lot of resources here. But when you look at smaller government entities in townships. They might not have the staff and the resources to hire and to like conduct all these searches and whatnot. So I can see where that would make sense for the smaller municipalities.
Exactly. And I know something that you and I had talked about a little bit earlier is it's not just, Traverse City and Garfield Township. We're seeing Leelanau County is looking for an administrator right now, and they're using a consultant. We saw recently as well, Grand Traverse Metro, they used Amy Cell Talent as well to find their new fire chief. And something else that I thought was pretty interesting when I was talking to Traverse City's Mayor Shamrow is she said that she's actually sought feedback from the community before about what they want to see in these executive roles and these new leaders. And she said she's actually heard from people that they want fresh perspectives, that they want fresh people and people who can manage the growth of Traverse City to come in and do that, which was actually a little bit surprising to me because I feel like the internal candidates who have been here and they know these roles is something that people would lean more towards, but it seems to be the opposite.
That is really interesting. And I'm also curious, we know that local governments are hiring these firms, but I wonder what other industries are. Because, here, like in the news industry, we have our HR department and our bosses that kind of handle all the hiring. So I'm curious. I don't know if you know this, Allie, but I'm just kind of like thinking out loud here. What other industries do use this sort of firm?
Yeah, I think other industries definitely do. And that's something that Amy Sell had touched on a little bit during our interview today is that, for what she is doing for Garfield Township, for Traverse City, that there are other much higher level like recruiting firms that work with corporations, and those can be pretty expensive, but that there are smaller consulting firms who are really built to have that niche of working with municipalities. So I would say that's probably a pretty good assumption that other industries as well are using these HR recruiting firms.
Sure. It's very interesting. And it sounds like they're from the people that you talk to, it sounds like they all mentioned a lot of pros to using these hiring firms. And it sounds like the biggest con, of course, is the cost. And really that kind of comes back to, unfortunately, the taxpayer to handle that. But seems like for the most part, everyone has pretty positive things to say and they've had good experiences, at least with the people you talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now, because of how much movement there's been, I know you gave a little bit of background into that earlier, that there's been a lot of movement. So that's why we're really seeing, Amy Cell Talent. We're seeing some other consulting firms up here that people are gravitating towards and using. And at this point, a lot of them are saying, especially since Amy Cell herself has handled a lot of these, is, well, this person is familiar with our area now. They know what we're looking for. They know the type of candidate that we want. So it's better to go with them anyways because they know exactly what we're looking for. And we know that we can trust them because, hey, they were able to get a really great city manager for Traverse City, or hey, she was able to bring in a really great new fire chief for Grand Traverse Metro as well. So I think that's a big factor too.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, Allie, thank you so much for joining us and for digging deeper into your story. It's a very interesting topic that I think hasn't really been brought to light before. So thanks so much for all that.
Thanks, Maya.
And we are going to take a short break. Now that you have a little more background information on this, I'm going to put our question of the day back up on our screen now. If you haven't voted yet, be sure to scan the QR code. Again, the question is, should local governments use taxpayer money to pay for outside consultants to help fill staff positions? So be sure to scan that. When we come back, we are going to check in with our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, and you'll have more on your forecast. So stick around. You're watching UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30. I'm going to bring in our chief meteorologist. That is, of course, Joe Charlevoix, live from the Storm Team Weather Center. Hey, Joe.
Hi.
Hi. So the story today really was the wind. It was very windy out there. You mentioned earlier that it will die down, but tomorrow still might be a little breezy.
Yeah, it'll come down tonight some, and then tomorrow it's still windy. It'll be out of the west tomorrow, but not as windy as it was today. As we take a look here. And honestly, Maya, we have a couple nice days coming up as well. So that'll be kind of nice to see.
Very
of course,
nice.
we did have those thunderstorms last night. And fortunately for us here in Northern Michigan, by the time they got here, they really weakened. And this is what that looked like. So there's the line of storms that we had last night across Iowa. There's a lot of reports of damage in Iowa, also Wisconsin. Unity, Wisconsin was a town that was really hit hard. And then we've had it in our news, a couple of fatalities in, I believe it was Greenfield, Iowa, last night with these storms. There's kind of what they look like as they worked across Wisconsin. But by the time they got here, I'm just kind of recapping this because a lot of us were, a lot of you were probably in bed by this point. Just after midnight, pretty good lightning show on my drive home from work last night. And by the time they got here, they really did weaken. So our northern areas did get some rain, a few thunderstorms, and then today we've had a pretty quiet day, just all that wind. And right now, the winds are still pretty gusty. There's the peak winds right now. Some spots, Houghton Lake, Oscoda, gusting over 30 miles per hour right now, at least currently. We have a few nice days coming up. We mentioned that. There's still a couple light showers or sprinkles out there, but watch after midnight. You see the clock there? Well, by tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up, lots of sunshine, nice day. And then as we head into the day on Thursday, gorgeous weather. Even Friday, you see some rain coming in Friday. That'll be later in the afternoon and evening. I think we won't really get any rain until Friday night will be our next chance. Right there. That'll pass through overnight, maybe a rumble of thunder. And then Saturday, we should dry things out starting early to mid-morning and probably salvage a pretty decent day. So there's Memorial Day weekend. Here's the forecast. Saturday, I think those very early day showers ending. Highs will be in the 60s. Sunday, mostly cloudy. Some late day rain Sunday, but that'll be late. And then, unfortunately, right now for a lot of the parades and ceremonies taking place across northern Michigan for Memorial Day on Monday, it does look wet. We are going to see some rain. Low pressure will spin in here with temperatures in the mid and upper 60s. Another big event this weekend is the Bayshore Marathon. That's in Traverse City. Cloudy early, a few showers, mid-50s. But then, again, I do expect the sun to come out mid-morning Saturday. Of course, temperature is a key thing if you're running a marathon. Upper 50s at 10 a.m. We're looking at low 60s by 1 p.m. And there it is, the masterpiece forecast. Showers Friday night. Again, early showers Saturday. And that chance for rain does look pretty good there, Maya, on Monday on Memorial Day. Maybe we'll see some changes to that, but as of right now, it looks like it's going to be a little bit on the wet side.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for that. We'll see you again tonight on Up North Live and News at 11. But here on Up North Live 6:30 Unscripted, we're going to take another quick break. But when we come back, we're going to see what our sports director, Harrison, has been up to today. Stick around. Welcome back to Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30, and thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're going to bring in our sports director, Harrison. He is once again live in our newsroom. Harrison, don't you have like games to go cover?
You know, Maya, that's the beauty of spring sports. Everything's early in the day. So actually, usually our desks are kind of right by each other. You see me come in, and then you kind of see me quickly ditch out on the spring calendar, because that's when the most of the stuff happens, is in the afternoons and early evenings. So
Kind of
actually, a lot of flexibility to do Up North Live at 6:30.
Well, we appreciate it, Harrison. So what did you go out and shoot today?
Today was baseball, Traverse City Central and Traverse City West. That's the big rivalry, of course, the two biggest schools in our viewing area, and they met up in their one and only baseball doubleheader for the season today. And caught a couple impressive bunts from both teams. It's hard to pull off the bunt in baseball, and these guys did a couple. West, actually, a bunt paid off, because then a wild pitch allowed a run to score, and then a sac fly allowed another run to score. And so last check, they were up 2-0 in the fourth inning between Central and West over there at the Trojan Athletic Complex, which just opened a couple years ago. Both West and Central have these brand new spring athletic facilities that are just really nice. So if you're in the area and you want to catch some high school baseball or softball or soccer, West just opened their facility this year. Central's been open for a couple years, but really great facilities for these high-level athletes and schools to take part and have their games in.
Certainly. And speaking of baseball, the heck is going on with the Tigers? They're falling apart again.
It's either that or the Royals. Get your bets in now. They're going to be a World Series favorite, one of the two. But I did the math live on the air at 6. The Royals scored 26 runs in 3 games against 3 really good Tiger pitchers too. Reese Olson, Casey Mize, and Tarek Skubal today. They got 4 runs on Tarek in 5 innings, and that's not easy to do. He's one of the best pitchers statistically in baseball. So the offense, they weren't quiet. 3 runs a game isn't awful, but it's not going to win you enough games. It's not going to win you a series, and it's definitely not going to win you enough games to be truly competitive for 6 months. So yeah, the Tigers, we'll see. Next up, I believe they return home. They got a 4-game weekend series with the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll see if home cooking kind of does them any more favors. That'll get started tomorrow night.
Maybe that's what they need. Just need to be back on the good old turf of America Park.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Harrison. Well, we will see you back here tonight on Up North Live News at 11 for your full sports highlights. I know I'm looking forward to it. We're going to take another, what am I doing?
Look at the
another break here. And when we come back, we'll check in with our results for our question of the day. Stick around. We'll be right back. Let's take one last look at our question of the day results, shall we? The question today was, should local government use taxpayer money to pay for outside consultants to help fill staff positions? 15% say yes, 85% say no. If you haven't voted yet, scan that QR code on your screen now and let us know what you think about this question. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you all tonight on Up North Live News at 11. Take care, everyone.